Read the disclaimer, 13 and up.
Hello everyone and welcome to another QuadStrike episode review. We are finally concluding the XANDER stuff, which we'll get into. So the episode basically starts off with Belle and XANDER, and you think they're gonna finally get into it, except no, they're both hungry, right? So then after, that's what causes the episode to go on for a little bit longer. So they did this whole thing where it's like, oh, because the cooking was so good, they're gonna battle for Belle's grandpa, and I was like, okay, I don't think they needed the reason. They were kind of just going to battle already, but whatever, that's what they want to set up for this episode. So basically they talk about how, oh, well, Xiphoid has this whole thing with like, it's one strike, it's one blow, that, I mean, this makes more sense in context if it actually literally had it like in the gimmick itself, but I guess this is just like, oh, because it just does one strike, right? Whatever. So then after, when the battle begins, because they're talking about strategy, so the whole thing was to not get by that one hit, so he's going to the defense. VALT points it out, and they make a big deal about it, but the thing is that XANDER can basically see him changing the bay, so I didn't really get the point of that, really, of that scene, which was like, okay, but like, you can see it. Then after, you know, Belle's going for it. So here I want to say, this was at least interesting how they kind of utilized Divine for kind of some cool special VFX. I kind of like that, where kind of like where the metal, well, it's plastic, but you know what I mean. Very cool effect there for the defense thing. I thought that was a little bit interesting. I think because when the bays don't have the gimmicks, they gotta really make up for it in other ways. I think when they do stuff like this, that's kind of interesting. I thought it was nice, the visual effect here, you know, when the Divine's having that kind of barrier come out, where the metal is, or was. It's not metal, it's plastic, but like, you know what I mean, like that area there. So he's defending against, so he's got a strategy, he's defending against XANDER. Some shots were kind of weird. I think this shot was kind of okay. I wish there was a little bit more in between, kind of leading into that animation there. There's only one thing funny before I forgot to mention, which was Belle's height. Because I don't think, in the way he's standing, I don't know if in that perspective he should be that short, and then after that, tall like that. And if it is, I don't know, it looked like a weird shot to me either way with the height inconsistency there. That's what I at least felt like, because it's definitely a weird shot either way when you look at that. So they keep on drawing, because he does Divine counter to him, basically. So that's his whole thing. But then after, he decides he wants to match attack with attack. He gets his launch. Okay. So then after, when Xiphoid's going blow for blow, this was a cool shot. The press was a little bit weird, but I think they work with it. We get a kind of a new shot with XANDER. The face still looks a little bit awkward, the proportions of it, but you know, they're going for it, blow for blow. Then he manages to actually get XCALIUS down. Okay, I'm like, all right. And then after, he's like, oh, we're not going to do that again. Okay, and then after that, he launches it, which there is an animation error, because when he's launching it, he has the sword attachment. I still think it's funny, because they mentioned that since, because it's QuadStrike, right? So this basically, since they mentioned this, it's like, oh, he has the balance, but with the sword attachment, he has more added attack power. He launches it, but that's the balance. They didn't put with the sword attachment. And then after, I don't know, he warps. I can't even begin to question whatever this is. The bay just has like a tiny vortex to it. He does like the anime thing where they both hit each other, and when the sword cuts, and like the other person falls, you know. So that was at least something. And yeah, that's kind of it. I'm kind of dying out of this, but... So this is kind of the point that I thought of. If they're trying to find and make this whole episode about just another XANDER battle, kind of just to like advertise XCALIUS. First of all, obviously, yeah, they're not going to get his Belle's grandpa. Okay. So they have VALT versus XANDER, and I thought, well, that's a little bit more interesting than Belle versus XANDER, because neither of these things actually contribute to anything at all for the overall QuadStrike anime, like for any development. And, you know, the Bellfire goes, oh, look at how cool they are. And I thought, why didn't we just get, like, a battle between both of these? But the issue is that the pacing of the season is not that good, how they set up all this stuff. And this episode was not a good episode. Not in the sense that maybe visually, though, it was, I'll say, average at best. I definitely think it kind of has the issues I don't like too much with some of the burst battles, where it's kind of just a repeated sequence. You see Zyphoid Saber. Oh, look, he's doing the exact same thing. There were some unique sequences here, but I feel this is just kind of a product of kind of just the burst animation in general. I do think this was a wasted opportunity not to have a proper VALT versus XANDER. Yes, they technically do show it, and it did have a nice shot of two of the avatars clashing, and I just thought, why, this made more sense to me. Also, I have to make this joke, but he only lost because he had a HASBRO. And I hope they can do this. Like, the only times these episodes have ever made any sense is, like, when they're at least developing pre, because that's, like, the kind of, like, the focus this season. Like, because otherwise these episodes are kind of just, like, kind of pushing it a bit. But, whatever. They seem cool, I guess. The sequence, I believe, is reused from Sparking, when they kind of got the flashy hair stuff, whatever. Aside from that, that's kind of it. This episode, I definitely think, is kind of just like a skip, you know? It was like, I guess if you wanted to see Bell versus XANDER, but I think the QuadStrike anime still struggles a bit with the pacing. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I can say. I think, we'll see. I mean, this is like the same thing with like even Ken, because how they're setting it up is I feel each of these characters could almost have just had almost one episode. The only times when I think that's not the case is when they do development for pre, and then after I think, well, there's something relevant here for them to keep on progressing in the plot and in the story, right? When it kind of gets here, it's kind of like, but whatever. We get Sparking now, so that's going to be interesting, which means eventually we're going to get to Iger and then after Kit. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to develop this for pre and everyone, because it's got to go somewhere. I don't want this to kind of just be the formula of where meet the legend, you battle the legend, but it's kind of like a recap. Okay, there's something else again, battle again, but different attachments. Okay, battle again, different attachments. That's kind of what it feels like. And when they're developing pre, I think that's the only thing that's kind of like saving QuadStrike a little bit, because otherwise it's kind of just Anyways, that's going to be it for now. We'll probably have XANDER battles, now fully this time, on probably the Sunday. I don't know, I'll see whenever. But, yep, that's going to be it for now. I want to mention, check out our store, which is an option way to support the channel. We have DB/BU releases. Amen. There's QR code mulletbase.com. Pre-orders for Beyblade X. That's going to be it for now. And yeah, I think it was pretty fair towards QuadStrike. I think just they really need to work on it not being so meh for a lot of this stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day and bye.